Dudes, duduses, and doofuses. You're a doofus if you've been believing all these computer models about a drought and a bull market in corn and soybeans. Just have to have a sense of humor, folks. I'm wearing my smiley hat today because on Tuesday, really about a week or two ago, I told our Weather Wealth clients once again for the third summer in a row, hype over droughts and lower yields. Yes, it's been dry in parts of the western Corn Belt up into Nebraska, northwest Iowa, parts of the Dakotas, spring wheat areas, but rains are coming Friday, and I don't see a major full-fledged drought. And we're going to talk about why, from a weather perspective, in our climate intelligence newsletter that's less expensive, has more weather forecasts. Weather Wealth, updated several times a week with trading ideas that we have not got caught up in this bull market necessarily. I'd love to see a drought. I'd love to see problems in South America and in China to help farmers have higher prices for crops. All these computer models, different colors, we try to second guess those. We'll talk about today how we mentioned to our clients on Tuesday what the negative WPO index and ElNiño combined would suggest for Corn Belt and soybean wet weather into August. Look at the rim of fire, rains a couple of days ago over Indiana and Ohio. Models did not predict this. Okay, so believing standard models, again, is a error among many meteorologists. This was the forecast actually a couple of days ago for later Friday and the weekend. Notice in green there in Nebraska and then into Iowa by Friday. They're blue, 1 to 2 inch rain, some parts of Iowa, some severe weather and tornadoes. They're in green, half to inch and a half over the weekend on Saturday in Illinois and Iowa, or in Indiana, excuse me. The bottom line is the crude oil market soaring on the war. All this talk of hot, dry weather has created this rally in grains. It's really European corn I've been most bullish on, with the drought covering about 70% of the main corn areas in Western Europe. So we have something once again called a ring of fire. Johnny Cash, actually, my Beatles are my favorite group. Also, Fleetwood Mac, of course, the Eagles, go on and on. Pink Floyd, but Johnny Cash, the ring of fire. Again, into the heat dome, you got cool air aloft. That happens very often with ElNiño, and as a result, normal to maybe even slightly above normal rainfall off and on the next 1 to 2 weeks will save the Midwest crop from a disaster. Okay, most bull markets have the dome over Iowa, Missouri, extending into Illinois like 83, a weakening, not strengthening ElNiño like we have today, right? And also La Nina events of 88, 2011, 2012. There have been other bull markets, other reduced crops since 2012, but some of it was due to Chinese buying, previous weather issues in South America. We talk about that in both our Climate Intelligence and Weather Wealth newsletter. And stay tuned. We will be monitoring this for many clients around the world. And how to trade this stuff is really our specialty. You'll see that the main drought areas in dark red were in the Western Plains wheat areas, lowest wheat crop since the 1960s, and also much of Western Europe. That's why European maize corn prices have rallied about 20 or 30% over the last 2 months. So we have something called the negative WPO index. What I do best is second guessing models. That's a strong ridge aloft over and to the north of Alaska. Now, during the winter, that can bring the polar vortex south. A strong ridge warming aloft up across Alaska and Siberia brings the vortex south. What does that mean for the Corn Belt? The dome will get squished. And I've been saying this for a couple of weeks, and as usual, have been too early. What about the negative WPO in our Climate Predict program used by farmers and traders in 10 countries for cocoa, coffee, grains, you name it, natural gas? Looking at that negative WPO, right, the warm block to the northwest of Alaska and Siberia, I come up with these analogs. Forget these standard GFS and European models, folks. These are the analog years, right? Some of them had droughts, some of them had bull markets, some did not. But let's narrow this down even further. Look how the years get reduced. The record warm ocean temperatures there, ElNiño forming strong. Peru, Nino 1.2. When I combine that with the negative WPO. Look how the analog years get reduced from 15 analogs with a negative WPO to about, what, six here. Four out of six had bear markets in the summer. Let's narrow this down further. It's been wet in Brazil, northern Brazil. I've been catching multiple moves in coffee. Unbelievable on the wet weather and disease issues for coffee after being bearish coffee for 9 months. The negative AAO index, okay, combined now with that El Nino strengthening and the negative WPO, creates a 2006 analog. What happened in 2006? Soybean prices went down during late July and August. Again, the real main bull markets, and there have been other ones, of course, have been during La Nina events or a strongly fast weakening El Nino like in 83, not a strengthening El Nino situation. And again, if you look at these teleconnections, this is what we come up with. In blue, normal to above normal rainfall in parts of the much of the Corn Belt in later July and into August. In blue, not a disaster for sugarcane by any means. Everyone's talking about El Nino and a reduced sugar crop, but rains are coming. The monsoon has not really been that weak yet, so that may not be a bullish factor for the sugar markets. Anyway, we discussed all this stuff in a Weather Wealth newsletter. One trade alone pays for it for years, like the coffee moves we've had recently, or you know, corn over in Europe rallying 20 or 30%. How do you trade this stuff? How do you second guess models? There's so much information out there, mixed opinions, confusing. All right. I've been doing this for 40 years. I'm not always right, but the bottom line is I have a real edge looking at teleconnections, not just models, and advising major hedge funds and hundreds of farmers around the world for many years. Be safe. Hope for some rain from Indiana, Illinois, and Iowa, Missouri, Nebraska later this week and over the weekend, and maybe more in August. Good news. Take care.